Hello everyone. So a while back I did a video about the rear drain holes of the car, which is how water drains off the roof when it's up, and it then goes down these little holes that are just under there and ends out coming out the bottom of the car. And I mentioned that what tends to happen is if these get blocked, which is quite common, then water ends up overflowing and ends up in these rear sills here. Now this is a problem, of course, because what will tend to happen then is the water will just stagnate inside here, and will then cause the sill to rust from the inside out. So what you can actually see here is just the outer layer of the sill. Just behind this there is another layer of metal which goes down, and then behind that there is a strengthening beam which runs along the inside of the car, and all of that is prone to rust. And the problem is that if you see rust on the outside here, it's normally a lot worse on the inside. So in order to minimize the risk of having any problems with the sills later on, what we need to do is basically get inside here and have a look at what's going on, so that we can check if there's any rust developing. So the first thing we need to do is basically get inside the sill, which you can't really see very much because of the different layers of metal that are in there. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a boroscope. So this is a basic boroscope that I picked up online. It cost me about £5, and basically it's just a little camera on the end of a long cable, and then this just goes into a USB slot on your laptop. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this cover, and then we're going to get the boroscope down inside the sill and see what we can see. So it's a little bit of a performance to get this plastic bit off, because it does actually run all the way from one side all the way down to there. So basically what you need to do is first take out these little pins, and then unscrew that. You also have to unscrew the runner board so you can get underneath here and get this bottom bit out as well. And then this also goes down inside there like that. So there's quite a few little bits and pieces to undo. Also this has to come out as well, which is just needs a little socket on that. And then once that's out, then we'll be able to get our boroscope down inside a hole that's behind this. Okay, so now remove the plastic panel there, and you can now see that there is actually an access hole here, with which you can actually get down inside the sills. So what you can actually see here is actually, you can actually see all the layers of the sill. So this here is the outer layer. This is what you can see from the outside of the car, and then this is an inner layer of metal which goes down on the inside, and then you've also got this inside strengthening beam here, which is basically the main kind of structure of the car on the inside. So really what we need to do is get down inside these layers and just have a bit of a squiz and see what we can see. Okay, so we've got our laptop up and I've plugged in the camera. You can see it's now focusing on the keyboard there. So I have a MacBook laptop, and with this the easiest way is to use QuickTime, and basically what you can do is you can set it up to make a new movie recording, and then you basically just select the camera as your basically recording source. So not only is this an easy way to view what's coming out of the camera, but you also can record it as well. So I'm going to start recording now, and that means that I can save this and look back on it again in the future. Okay, so here we are on the boroscope camera. As you can see, it's not the best quality, but it should give us enough detail just to see if there's any corrosion inside our sills. So what I'm going to start by doing is feeding the camera down into this inspection hole here, which is behind the seat. As you can see, if we look inside here, what you can see in front here is that's the side of the car body, as you can see there. That line going basically horizontally across the screen, that's where the inner sill starts, and there's a gap between that and the outer sill of about an inch or so. and then that goes right down to the bottom of the car, where all of these layers all meet basically right down there at the bottom. So just taking a look superficially here, I'm just aiming down towards the bottom now, and that all looks relatively clean. So I can't really see any corrosion there. So I'm just carefully turning the boroscope just to try and get different angles. But we're basically looking downwards here, towards the bottom of the car. It looks relatively clean. There's no orange patches, which is what you would see if there was rust in there. It's not entirely clean, so obviously over time there's been a bit of dirt and stuff that's got in there. That's what the black is down there, but it's not corroded, which is really the key concern that we would be looking for here. But really we're just looking to see if we can see any corrosion, but it's not looking like there is much. There's a bit of surface, little bit of surface corrosion there, but I wouldn't say that's anything to worry about. It's definitely not misshapen or kind of being eaten away by rust. So that could probably do with a bit of wax in there, which I'll probably put in fairly shortly, just to seal that off and stop that corrosion getting any worse. So this is the inside of the car now. This is the inner part of the sill. We're looking down here towards the rear of the car. So basically what you can see on the right hand side of the screen is basically the rear bulkhead, where the wheel well is basically, and we're looking down towards the bottom of the car and the bottom of the sill there. And on the inside, that round circle is part of the strengthening structure inside the sill. So there's tiny bits of surface corrosion there, but nothing to worry about really. So that just needs a bit of cavity wax in there, just to keep that from getting any worse. I'll try and see if I can get a bit closer to that bottom bit there. Bit of surface corrosion in there, but it's not all orange, which is what you would see if it was getting really bad. So I think we're good. Okay, so that was the inner sill on the passenger side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get back inside here again, and what we're going to do is we're going to aim for this join here where the inner and the outer sill meet. As I say, there's about an inch worth of gap there, so we can try and get the boroscope down into this gap. There we go. So what we're looking at here is the gap between the inner and the outer sill. Oh, sorry. And I'm going to just basically put the camera up against the outer body of the car here and aim it downwards. Okay, so now we're getting into that gap between the inner and the outer sill. So this is looking forward. This is the bulkhead, basically where the inner sill, where the back sill meets the front part of the sill. So I'll show you a picture of that there. So that's what we're looking at here from the inside. So the top part of the screen is the outer body of the car, and the bottom part of the screen is the inner sill. So if I pull back up a bit here, you can see that that's the gap that we just went down into. Right, okay, so I've now pushed it back in again. This is now, we're basically resting the camera on the top of that inner layer and looking down into the gap. On the top part of the screen, this is the outer sill of the car, and on the bottom part of the screen is this inner layer, and we're looking downwards. And I'm gradually moving the camera forward, so we can see it's basically aiming down into the gap there, and we're just checking to see if we can see any corrosion in there. There's a bit of hair or something there. As you can see, it all looks pretty much brand new in there. There's no corrosion at all. It's very clean, so that's good. There's no signs of any damage in there. Again, this will probably, we need to put some cavity wax in here just to protect that and make sure that corrosion doesn't develop there in the future. So I'm lifting back up again now, and you can see that's the edge of the inner layer at the bottom of the screen there, and it's all pretty clean. There's nothing to worry about there. Okay, so we just checked the passenger side, and now we're going to check the driver's side. So same process again. Here's our inspection hole again, and we're just going to make our way into there. There in front of us you can see that's the same line as we saw in the other picture. That's the gap between the outer layer of the car, which you can see at the top, and the inner sill, which you can see at the bottom. And then if we angle down inside here, you can see the inside of the sill. Yeah, basically. So we're now looking. Sorry, let me just reposition my hand. Okay, so this is looking down towards the bottom of the car. You can see the strengthening layer on the inside and the outer sill of the car on the outside. So we're moving forward gradually up to where the bulkhead is between the back sill and the front sill. So again, all looks pretty good there. I think we can maybe see a bit of, again, tiny bit of surface corrosion at the bottom there, but not much to see there, not much to worry about. So we're just gonna have a quick look again. So it's aiming now towards the back of the car. There you can see on the right hand side of the screen, that's where the wheel well is. We're now looking back towards the wheel well. That's the wall of the wheel well there. So again, all looks pretty good really. Nothing to worry about there, I think. So let's just retract a bit. Okay, so we're looking at the wall of the car there. We're looking basically straight. We're looking horizontally towards the side of the car. Again, you can see the inner sill there and the outer sill at the top and the inner sill at the bottom. So we're going to try and go right up to the outer sill here, and we're going to rest the camera on the edge of the sill, and we're now looking down towards the bottom of the car. This is moving the camera forwards. This is the front. Gradually looking back now, moving backwards, and we're looking all the way back here towards the back of the sill. Okay, and that's now looking up towards the. This is basically looking backwards towards the wheel well. And again, I can't see any sign of corrosion in there. So we're now moving forwards again. This is the bottom of the car we're looking at here. So in this picture, we've got the inner sill at the top of the picture, and the outer sill, or the outer skin of the car, at the bottom of the picture. And we're gradually moving forwards towards the bulkhead here. So yeah, again, all looks very good in there. There's no corrosion that I can see there at all. It's pretty much as it left the factory, which is fantastic. Very happy with that. So probably what I'm going to do at some point in the future, relatively near future anyway, is get some cavity wax in here just to protect it and make sure that we don't get corrosion problems in the future. What I'm going to do is get cavity wax which is clear rather than black wax, because with clear wax you can then see through the coating and just make sure that there's no corrosion forming. So let's say that your drain holes at the back here are blocked, and the water ends up travelling down into the sill here. Well, what happens to it? Where does it go? Well, what's supposed to happen is the water is supposed to drain down to the bottom of the sill here, and then it's supposed to come out of these little access holes here. There's one there for the back part of the sill here, and there's one here for the front part of the sill there. But what commonly ends up happening is that they get blocked, either through stuff that's on the road, or they get squashed when you're jacking the car up, and obviously that makes it impossible for the water to drain out of the sill. So what happens is the water ends up just sitting in here, and over time that's what causes the corrosion inside. As we just saw with the boroscope video that I took just now, this car is 25 years old and the inside of the sills is still like new. The reason being that no water has been allowed to sit inside of the sills, so clearly this car has not seen a lot of wet weather driving. It's obviously probably lived in a garage, and I would assume that the owner in Japan obviously took care to make sure that the drain holes were clear as well. So anyway, it's very simple to check the drain holes. What you need is a small screwdriver like this. And what you're going to want to do is basically just stick it up into the hole and just make sure that it's clear. Like that. And check the front one as well. This is a bit tight, but it does still work. You can still get the screwdriver up inside there. I might try and open it up a little bit while you're there. And as long as you can do that, then the water can drain out the bottom, and it should never get wet enough inside there that corrosion starts to form. Even so, what you can do is you can inject the inside of the sills with cavity wax. When you do that though, just make sure that you do stick something up through the hole, so that you still leave a path for water to drain down if it does get inside the sill. If you do that, your car should last you for many years, and you should never deal with the problem of having to replace your sills because they're corroded away.